to my channel. I'm Carol. Kazzy N is my username on Instagram and Ravelry if you want to check out any of my previous projects. I thought today we'd have a little catch up, what things I've been working on, because I've got quite a few whips, some works in progress. It's not helping, I keep picking up new things. I also have some long-term blanket projects, but you know what it's like, you can't just do a blanket project, you have to have sort of bits in between. So I thought I'd go through, but I thought I'd start with what I'm wearing. This is this Stylecraft cowl that I showed you recently that I finished. And this, get a good it's very boxy shaped, and I'll put this back on because it's cold. And it's the Rebecca jumper by Ruby McGrath, and it's from Inside Crochet issue 58, which I think is 2014. And I used Bergère de France Le Guin in the purse colourway, P-E-R-S-E, and this took 800 grams. Now I knitted a jumper using this yarn initially, and it was quite clingy, and it just I just wasn't really, it just looked a bit frumpy, to be honest. And the initial jumper I knitted was called the graffiti top, and I just loved this yarn. It just looked like a sort of blackish dark undertones with all these jewel colours in it. I thought it was so beautiful, but when you knit with it, it just doesn't, it just mishmashes up. But when you crochet with it, it is amazing. Because you're doing trebles, you sort of get, each treble is like a little pool of colour on its own, so it really makes the colours pop. I think it's absolutely amazing. I think it's possibly discontinued now, but you can still get it on eBay, I noticed, because I had to buy one extra ball because I didn't have enough. So I went through the pain of undoing the previous jumper. I'm so glad I used it for this because it's cozy. It's just not, you know, it's just cuddly. I love it, love it. And so that's what I'm wearing. Now my work's in progress. Okay. Crochet wise, maybe I'll start with the knitting. Okay, I started a knitting project. You know how things just keep tinkering at the back of your mind and you think, do you know what, I really want to make that. This is in a little bag that a friend made me. Isn't it lovely? She knew I liked yellow and green, orange and green. Now this is it. This is what I've done so far. Look at the colour, isn't it amazing? That is the right side. It's going to be a shawl. It's the guinea shawl. And what you do, this is an amazing yarn. It's by Ovis Yarns. I went on their website and they're not doing this anymore. It's a beautiful woolly yet soft yarn. It's beautiful. But with it you do a little contrast, right? So it'll just have a little pop of contrast, just a couple of rows. And I had that in my stash. So let's see, the pattern is by Blacker Yarns, because initially it's their yarn you're meant to use. And this is a bag, I've printed it out. It's a paid for pattern. See, there's the little contrast band there. Guinea shawl, designed by Sonia Bargielowska for Blacker Yarns. And what you do at the end is you knit on a border, sort of a lovely cable and lace border. I just thought it's very cozy, and the colours really spoke to me. sort of cheer me up in this time of lockdown and everything. So that's my knitting project. Now that's going really quickly because I sit there and it's a nice easy pattern. It's easy without being boring, and I can watch TV and do things, so that's good. My next whip is all my other whips now are crochet. This, oops, sorry about that. This is the frosted shawl. The frosted neckerchief, and it's in the current issue of Inside Crochet. And I use this yarn I've had in my stash for ages by Elm Tree Yarns. I'll show you their little ball band. She's on Etsy and she just does the most amazing yarns, hand-dyed yarns, really lovely. This one's called Mrs. Tiggy Winkle. She did a whole Beatrix Potter themed range of yarns when I was buying this. I think she's gone on to other things now, like All Creatures Great and Small or something. So this is interesting. It's reversible, so you can have this side or this side, and it just takes one 400 meter ball of 4-ply sock yarn. Now initially I have undone this twice already because it's got a lovely look. Can you see a little bit of sparkle? I thought that would suit the frosted name, just a little bit of sparkle in it. I got to remember to save some for the tassels at the end. Now initially I did it and it looked like a Frankenstein crochet because I'd obviously put my hook in the wrong holes, which was just me, not the pattern. And then the pattern calls for a 3mm hook. So I did about this much in 3mm, using a 3mm hook. And I didn't like it. I loved the pattern and I loved how it was so structured, sort of almost architectural. But it didn't feel soft. It felt very stiff like cotton. And I thought this isn't really calling to me as something you'd wear casually around your neck. So I undid it all, except for this little bit at the very bottom. You can almost see there how sort of small and tight the initial bit was. And now I'm using a 4.5mm hook, and I'm pleased with it now because it's nice and it's got more flexibility and drape, and I like the stitch. I think there might be an error in the 7th row. It says you have to do a DC. Now I think that should be a treble, because you have to do a treble in the same place in an earlier row. So bear that in mind if you do that pattern. And do a little sample with your yarn to see what size hook you like as well with the pattern. Don't do what I did and sort of do half a scarf before you realise. This is another bag that the same friend made me out of fabric that she'd printed. This is when we was doing a creative embroidery together. She's passed away now, unfortunately. I've still got all these lovely things that she gave me. Right, the other whip I'm doing is a blanket. So this is a bit of a long-term project. It's one of them blankets that you make in little pieces. So, I've got hair on my mouth. So it's quite portable. I got it from this book by Melody Griffiths, and I'm making the Navajo blanket. So that's what it's meant to be like. I'm doing, these are colours that I've had in my stash since the 1980s. I was going to make this huge Afghan from a 1980s Vogue knitting magazine, and it didn't work out because the row gauge wasn't the same for each stitch pattern. I mean, you think they'd have worked this out when they did the samples, and there was colour work squares and nothing matched. So I thought, how is this going to make an Afghan, because nothing, the row tension doesn't work. And you couldn't make the squares smaller because you had like a colour work pattern of a camel or something on it, you know, which you had to complete. And anyway, it just got too complicated. So this is what I've done so far. So I've not done too bad. I need to just keep going with it, really. Don't get distracted. I've made it a bit bigger than the sample in the book. I've done an extra 1 or 2 rows at the side, but this is a Woolrich acrylic Aran weight yarn. It's one of them yarns that you buy in a 400-gram ball, you know, quite economical. So that's that. So you make all these little, you have to make the little triangles. It's like a patchwork that you make the little triangles. I'm showing you the wrong side. So you make a little triangle, and then straight away you then crochet the other little triangle on top of it, and then you make a nice pattern with it. So I enjoyed making it, actually. It's nice, and I love my colours, my colour choices, and I'm hoping it will use up quite a bit of my stash, because I've got this bag and this bag with the dark colours in. So once that blanket's done, I'm hoping I would have cleared some quite extensive stash that's been hanging around since the 1980s. So that's good. I'm using a 6mm hook for these. And my final work in progress is the Purple Mist blanket. This is from Cozy Crochet. It's actually the cover blanket by Anna Moray Soares, and this is in a mosaic crochet, using a mosaic crochet stitch, which is new to me. I hadn't done that before. And the colours, I've changed the colours slightly. So my base is going to be this, and then I'm going to do 3 other colours. This one, and this one. So this is going to be on the base of all of them, and this one. Now these are just cheap acrylics that I actually got in a charity shop. So it's all charity shop stuff. Starcraft Special Double Knit is the grey one, and it's the same sort of thing for the other colours. So that, again, that's all stash. I think, well, because they were quite large amounts, I picked them up, but I wouldn't normally buy acrylic in vast quantities in a charity shop. I'd rather, if I'm going to buy stuff in a charity shop, I'd rather it was good quality that I wouldn't normally be able to afford to buy. So that's that, and I'll show you what I've done. It's quite, mosaic crochet is quite slow going. Now this is quite wide, so it's going to make a nice wide blanket, but I've only done this so far. There's not a great deal of contrast between the 2 colours, but I actually like that. And also, spot the deliberate mistake. Nothing to do with the pattern, but I managed to have interlocking crosses, whereas there's meant to be a square in between the crosses. The crosses are meant to be in vertical row columns, but I'm sticking to this now, and there's no way I'm undoing it. And I'm being a good girl, I'm sewing in my ends at the end of each row, because that's quite a simple thing to just sew in an end on each end, rather than waiting till the end to do hundreds and hundreds of ends, because you have to cut the yarn at the end of every row. So yeah, it's interesting, and it's quite addictive. And that's like one big project, as opposed to my other blanket, which is all little tiny bits and pieces that you then piece together. So, oh, the other colours were Life, Starcraft Life DK. So that's my whips, and I've been getting on with my log cabin squares. So I have now made 4, so another 12 to go. But I've also found some more fabric, so that's good. So I've got this one, which I think you saw. I've got this one. This one. And the last one is this one. All utilising remnant or old clothing. So that's good. So it's quite nice. I've been doing a square an afternoon while the light is still with me, because it's not something you really want to do once it gets dark, because the stitches are quite small. So that's that. I've been good to do that. And future projects, I'm telling you now because this will make me do it. So it doesn't sit in my cupboard for years. I've decided to do the Leaping Hare shawl crochet project by Polly V. I just love the hair on it. It's just so beautiful, and it's not as colourful as her normal body of work, but this is more my palette. This lovely verdigris colour with the dusky pink, and oh, I just think it's gorgeous. And the kit wasn't available, and I couldn't have afforded it anyway. So I did buy some yarn for it. I bought this King Cole natural alpaca DK. I've balled it up because it was in a skein. It is so soft. So that'll be the main body of the shawl. And I did order some verdigris. I just got some Signet pure wool, which I thought was really good value. I mean, it's 100% wool, and it was only a couple of £. And I got that in pink and grey, but the rest of the stuff I've had in my stash. I've got a hat made out of that and a jumper. Oh yeah, and this was left over from the William Morris shawl that I made. So yeah, but apart from the reviews that I've read, it takes quite a bit of concentration. You have to have quite a bit of your own input into it. So once I've done some, I'll know when I'm ready. You know when you know. You know when you know that you're ready. So that's what I'm waiting for that moment. So that's where I am on my crafting. I've also got my teddy bear. Oh, it's showing his bottom. That's not good, is it? This was the very first thing I ever knitted when I think I was 14. From my Better Knitting and Crochet book. I knitted in it, and funnily enough, it's kept his colour underneath. But look, this is Soda. Look, his poor hands and feet. My mum mended these twice So, but now it's my turn. My husband's donated me a leather coat that he didn't want anymore because it was stained, and it's quite supple leather. So I plan to sew up his little feet and hands. His little mouth is coming undone as well, but I don't want to change that because I don't want to change his expression. Because with bears, they're very personal, aren't they? I've kissed this bear my whole life. Well, not recently. Well, when I was little. He's still got a growl. So that's quite sweet. Yeah, so he's very old, my little bear. So I've got to do him as well. But that's a sort of a maintenance job. It's and again, I've got to be in the mood to do that. I've got to take my cat to the vet this afternoon. She's due for her annual booster jab, but she's also got really bad arthritis in her back right leg. So she needs something from the vet for that, as an ongoing issue. So it's horrible, isn't it, when little animal gets old. I thought, well, I know how she feels because my knees are really hurting me. I think it's the wet weather as well, doesn't help. So we'll get her sorted. But the worst thing is, because of COVID and the lockdown, I've got to park outside the vet, and then the nurse will come out and collect her in the basket and then take her in and then bring her back to me once it's all done. But I know that she'll be terrified without me, and I feel really bad, really bad. She's 14 in March, and I've had her since she was 9. But I think the first 9 years of her life weren't very good, because when I got her, she was really suffering. You know, I got her from the Cats Protection, from our support. She was in a really bad way, and she still is quite, you know, she's quite nervous and she can be a bit feisty sometimes, but I don't blame her. You know, if someone's been treating you badly and that, you know, you've got to learn to trust again, haven't you? And she trusts me and she likes me to be there with her. So I feel a bit bad about that, but what can you do? I'd rather get her treated. But I hope everyone else is okay, and you're keeping safe. And I just pray for everyone that this all passes just as soon as it possibly can, and that we all stay strong and healthy. So anyway, I'm sending you my crafting love and best wishes, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.